Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Part of the invocation, please.
Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Shayam Vaishena Gratitam Puranamuni Te Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Astadashadhayinim Amba Tvamanushandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadeshinim Namastute Vishal Buddhi Pullarvindayat Patra Netra Enutaya Bharat Taila Purna Prajalita Ganumaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijatayo Tatra Vitraikopanai Ganmudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha सर्वोपनिषद्गावदुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थवत्सुधीर्भुक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्मद्रोण तटजयद्रुत जला गान्धार नीलोत्पला शल्यग्रावती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी शक्तिर्ना खलु पाण्डवैरणनदि कैवर्तक केशवः हराशर्यवचशर्यं मलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानक्खनक्केशरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनबोधितं लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहो रहो पेपीयमानं मुदा भुवद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रदंशिनश्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुत स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैः स्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषद्गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानवस्थित तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यश्यन्तं न विदुषुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः।
So, what was the homework?
Homework was 20, verse 20.
Hmm.
You told us to correlate this with any previous chapter verse and also
Okay.
the meaning of this particular verse.
Okay. So, you want to start?
I will start.
Yeah, sure.
Binaji, you want to start?
No, I think I missed something. I am still in chapter verse number 16.
Okay.
That was the homework. So,
I think last class you missed. Okay. Um, uh, in chapter 13, first verse itself, Arjuna asked this question. What is Kshetra and Kshetragna? And what is Prakriti and Purusha? And Krishna, I think so far he has been talking about Kshetra Kshetragna. He now came to Prakriti and Purusha in verse 20. So, verse 20, I get an impression that both Prakriti and Purusha are, are not essentially two different entities. What Krishna is trying to say that the changeless consciousness puts on the appearance of changelessness, of the changelessness, changefulness and modifications. So Purusha is changeless and Prakriti is subject to constant change or modification. That is one impression I got in chapter 13. But before that, I was going through, Krishna first mentioned about this Prakriti word in chapter 2, verse 45. He talked about the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And there he says that Prakriti is constituted by these three gunas. He mentioned the word Prakriti, did not elaborate much. And he also said that to remain Prakriti bound is not the goal of human life. So he was trying to explain to Arjuna. Then I got the reference in chapter 7. Chapter 7, verse 4, verse 5, verse 6, where Krishna brought an element that he is also is two prakritis. One is lower prakriti, other is the higher prakriti. So that was very interesting. So lower prakriti, he is talking about the basic elements like earth, air, water, fire, ether, mind, intellect, ego. These are all his prakritis, which is his lower prakriti. And his higher prakriti is basically pure consciousness or awareness. So this is what I got from chapter 4, 7, chapter 7, verse 4, verse 5, and verse 6. And I also got the same analogy of waves and ocean, like both are water, and waves are very short-lived, but then waves are part of the same element water, constituted by the same element water. So, Raghuji may say something now. You have to unmute yourself, Raghuji.
Yeah, I was trying to do that. It is not, it's being very slow response. I just got back to Coimbatore from UK via Abu Dhabi. So it was essentially two nights of flights. So 2 nights of low sleep, low sleep. So the thing is, even my computer seems to be sleeping and not responding to my clicks. Hari Om, everyone. Yeah, so I had actually this verse. I had a question also. One thing very correctly said by Parthoda, that both Prakriti and Purusha are the same in a sense, okay? And he also mentioned the reference to chapter 7 where he says there are two categories, higher and lower. The Purusha is higher, Prakriti is lower. And I think he's alluding to that when he says Prakritam Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi. So it basically has both are without beginning. It's interesting, he doesn't talk about end over here. I believe Prakriti has an end when it merges back into the Purusha. But then wouldn't that also mean Prakriti has a beginning when the forces of Maya devolves from the Purusha? That was one thing I got a little confusion on this verse. Sir, you're muted.
Okay, so firstly, congratulations on the good homework. very aptly you have picked up verse number 7, chapter number 7, where he talks about the lower Prakriti of the higher Prakriti. There are other specific mentions of Prakriti where he talks about the fact that in chapter 3, he talks about the fact that this world, whatever we see, is played around with the Prakriti of three gunas, which Pastora brought up. So, excellent. Prakriti and Purusha. Essentially, therefore, we are saying that there is duality. Now, how does Advaita reconcile this duality becomes a very big question. Now, at an individual level, we say that we are born with the ignorance. There is no beginning to the ignorance because we are born with it. So when this body manifested, ignorance manifested along with it. The child, as it is born, is already aware of the fact that I am the body. That ignorance it is born with, but that can be removed. So it's a trick question. What is there which is not born but yet has an end? Anything that is ajanma also is amara. Anything that is not born cannot die. No, but there is only one thing, and that is ignorance. Ignorance has no beginning, and yet it has a death. It dies when the birth of knowledge happens at an individual level. Is that also true at a cosmic level? So cosmic level, we call ignorance, avidya, together, we call it maya. Now, maya is it real? Is it unreal? So if I look at pure the classical strict Advaitic sense, then he says Jagan Mithya. What is Jagan Mithya? What is the word meaning Mithya? Mithya does not mean unreal. Mithya means appearing to be real. It means appearing to be real. How long is it appearing to be real? As long as I see it, as long as I identify with it, as long as I play around with it, as long as I'm affected by it. Now, for example, my wife and I are watching one particular series of some serial, and after the serial is over, and we sat down for dinner or lunch, and we're still discussing the serial. This happens in many houses, right? So that serial is very real now. It has become part of your life. It is a reality. But now you step back and you say, oh, no. That is only the serial. The moment the TV is put off, it is gone. Now it has become unreal. So is it unreal or is it real? As long as I identified with it, as long as I played around with it, it remained to be real. It appeared real, so real that it was affecting me. It was affecting my understanding of this world. So from a very interesting tradition, what we say is that Brahman, he manifests as two. Brahman is one, but manifests as two. The screen and what is playing on the screen. Both are manifestations. Even the screen is a manifestation. Purusha is what we call Ishvara in that sense. And therefore, even Ishvara is a manifestation of Brahman. And Ishvara, therefore, has to have a Shakti. And therefore, all Ishvaras, in whatever form we want to worship them, they are portrayed with one Shakti. Right? Shiva with Parvati, Vishnu with Lakshmi, and so on and so forth. Sometimes they are portrayed with two Shaktis. Then they are called Ichha Shakti and Kriya Shakti, with Jnana Shakti being the Ishvara himself, knowledge himself. Such portrayal is basically the symbolism that explains the fact that Purusha and Prakriti, while they appear to be two, you very rightly pointed out, Partha, in reality are actually only one. They are playing with each other. And that is why we use the term Leela. Right? We use the term Leela, play. Leela.
They can't be playing with each other. You cannot have them playing with each other without having the duality. So you have
that is why. So that is why they are duality. The appearance of duality enables them to play. Which is why I say, see, I'll give this example of the ball, right? And the child and the ball. I think I have shared this example earlier. You have a child who's holding a ball. He owns the ball. He likes the ball. He plays with the ball. Now, suddenly, while walking, he tosses the ball into the air and he catches it. What is he doing? He's playing with himself. What happened to the level of happiness that he was experiencing with the ball? When he tossed it and he caught it, the happiness increased. I got some more happiness by playing. Right? So, like a child, the Divine Mother plays here. She plays. This is playing. And we are all caught in that play, and we believe that play to be actually the reality. And there is a beautiful song by Sri Ram Prasad, who was a very staunch Kali devotee, about more than 150 years before Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to use a lot of Ram Prasad songs to explain a lot of his theories and philosophies. And Ram Prasad sings this beautiful song where he says that the Divine Mother stands on the terrace playing with flying many kites. And one of them gets cut and floats away. And she jumps in joy and says, Bukatta. Bukatta is what we say in Bengal. In Gujarat, that becomes Kai Poche. She jumps and she shouts. It is her own kite. She is the one who is playing with it. But when it gets cut and it floats away, meaning becomes free, she jumps with joy. What a beautiful, beautiful analogy. What a beautiful symbolism. But see, this also brings me to the point that we need to understand that ritual, therefore, ritual cannot exist without duality. If there is no duality, there is no ritual. But ritual is not to be thrown away. Ritual is needed. Duality is needed. Because without the stepping stone of duality, unity cannot be attained. And therefore, we must remember, see, if we get stuck with the ritual without understanding the meaning of the ritual, then we have Kabir's Doha. Kabir has said beautifully, Mal mal dhoye sab koye, dhoye na man ka mail. Right? Mal mal dhoye, mal means rubbing. Mal dhoye sab koye, dhoye na man ka mail. Ganga gomati nahaye, rahe bail ke bail. You remain a bullock. Rahe bail ke bail. Because you are stuck with the ritual. Ganga jaake nahaye, Gaumati jaake nahaye, hum log Kailash jaake nahayenge. All of that will happen. Right? All of that will happen. But we have not washed our minds. We have not washed our ignorance. Then you are going to remain permanently a bullock. So the ritual is important, but not getting stuck in that ritual is also important. Yes, Sir Raghuji.
There's a beautiful verse from Khalid that says, observing the dirt on my, not realizing the dirt is on my face, I keep wiping the mirror. I can't, I should say it in Hindi, it sounds much, or Urdu, it sounds much better, but I don't remember the exact words. But just as that, you're just wiping the mirror without observing that the dirt is in your face, which is also like a follow-up to what your statement is. Ritual is important, but we need to understand what this ritual is for so that we apply it correctly and we get to that goal that we need.
Correct. So therefore, when this particular stanza, he says, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi, they were anadi. Why? Because time. When did time start into existence? Only after the Big Bang there is time. Before Big Bang, there is no time. Causality and time get created at the same time. Kal and Kali get created at the same time. So therefore, from the time you started measuring time, both Purusha and Prakriti existed. And therefore, they are anadi. Right from the time when you started measuring time, you as in whoever, consciousness. Before that, there is no question of time. There is no question of duality. There is no question of Purusha or Prakriti. There is only Brahman. So here he says, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhi anadi, vidyanadi ubhavapi, vikaramscha gunamschaiva, vidhi prakriti sambhavan. So he says, vikarascha, vikaran, changes, vikaranscha, gunamschaiva, along with the gunas. There are continuous changes that are happening. That you understand as prakriti. So we have understood that the waves, the surface of the ocean, where there is continuous vikara, that is called what is called prakriti. Inside that prakriti, when you go deeper into the ocean, right at the base, well, in some places there will be some current or whatever, but essentially there may be a tempest on the top. There may be a big storm going on, but at that level, complete stillness. So that stillness is what we can even experience ourselves. When we are doing this Soham breathing, now I would like those of you who are doing it as a practice, what I would like you to do is to start observing that small gap, microsecond gap between the inhalation and the exhalation, at which point there is no so, there is no hum, there is no thought, and there is no breath. Because our breath and our thoughts are so very linked. The breath stops, the thought stops, there is no so, there is no hum, there is that stoppage. I would like you to now slowly, instead of holding your breath, don't hold your breath. Hold your attention to that silence. You will find that your breath has automatically started coming down. You will stop breathing. You will come to a point where the breath becomes so gentle, so only that much which is needed for the body to survive. Actually, in Patanjali yoga practices, they actually say that you are supposed to hold a wisp of cotton 1 finger below the nostril, and that wisp should not even move. That is when you have attained samadhi. And when does that samadhi come? When you have got into that silence between the thoughts. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra talks about 112 methods. They are not 112 methods. They are one method. He broken into 112 steps. Right? Osho writes it differently, and I don't agree with him. Osho says that there are any of them. You can just open the book at any particular page. You look at method number 63 and you start with number 63. Sorry, you can't do number 63 unless you've done 62. And you can't do 62 until you have gone and started with number 1. And a lot of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra actually stresses upon this part of what I just now talked about. Meditation number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All of these are only about this particular thing. These are all meditation practices. Practices that help us to get to a point which say, my breath has stopped. Now, why is that important and how is this related here? Vikaramscha gunanschaiva. No vikara, no guna. Gunatita. Avikari. We reach that stage in here right now. We can reach that state if we continue to practice. That is what he is saying here. Vikaramscha gunanschaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. We move on to verse number 21. Karya karana kartritve. Karya karana kartritve. Hetu prakriti ruchyate. Hetu prakriti ruchyate. Karya karana kartritve. Hetu prakriti ruchyate. Purusha sukha dukkhanam. Purusha sukha dukkhanam. Bhoktritve hetu ruchyate. Bhoktritve hetu ruchyate. Purusha sukha dukkhanam. Bhoktritve hetu ruchyate. Karya karana kartritve. Hetu prakriti ruchyate. Purusha sukha dukkhanam. Bhoktritve hetu ruchyate. Karya, effect. Karana, cause. Karya here does not mean work. Karya means the effect. And karanam, the cause. Karya karanam. Kartritve, in the matter of doing, in the matter of creation. Kartritve, in the matter of doing. Hetu, the medium. Prakriti, what we are talking about. Prakriti. Uchyate is said to be. Purusha, here the individual soul or the divine soul come to you, it doesn't matter. So that which we call the Atman, sukha dukkhanam, of happiness and pain, of pleasure and pain, bhoktritve, in experiencing, hetuhu, is responsible, uchyate is said to be. So here, what is he saying? In the matter of this creation, the Prakriti is responsible for cause and effect. In the matter of experiencing that cause and effect, experiencing happiness and sorrow, experiencing the mana, apamana, experiencing the sukha and dukkha, the individual soul, Purusha here, is declared as responsible for this. Now, what does that mean? It means that the consciousness cannot have an experience without Prakriti. Right? You need, for consciousness, individual Atman, to be able to experience something, that experiencing, the act of experiencing, requires a medium through which that experience can happen. Hetu. Without that medium, experience itself can vanish. Which is why he says, aparoksha anubhuti, direct experience. And then he himself says, oh, very sorry, wrong. Because I myself said, na bhokta, na bhojyam, right? Na bhojanam. I am neither the experience, nor the experiencer, nor the act of experiencing. I am Brahman. Everything is in Brahman. Brahman does not have to be in anything. It is not in the act of experiencing. It is not in the act of being experienced. And hence here he says that in the matter of experiencing, with that experiencing happens through a medium. And who is the experiencer? The identified soul. Jiva. The Jiva which has separated itself from Shiva, which is completely identified, which identification with the limited body, mind, and intellect, is now experiencer. It is looking at the experience and saying, I am experiencing. In reality, you should go back to Gurudev's BMI chart. Body is what? Oh, the body is the perceiver. Mind is the feeler. Intellect is the thinker. Body is perceiving through what? Through the sense organs. Mind is perceiving what? Mind is doing what? It is getting emotions. And the intellect is thinking thoughts. But these are all happening because there is a whole bunch of vasanas that is layered between the divine and myself. And that layer of vasanas, when it is overcome, within that is when that divine shines through. So here he is saying that what you are thinking as the experience, what you are thinking as the experiencer, is your individual soul. You are experiencing for the simple fact that you have identified with the BMI.
Sir,
Yes.
I was just on the flight, I was actually reading the in Aproksha Anubhuti, the verse 110, where I was looking at Gurudev's interpretation. And it is about Desha, the space, and how Acharya talks about Desha. And he specifically mentioned something which kind of the opposite of what you just said, where it says that the people and their universe of things and beings are not there in the self, which transcends the phenomenal world perceived, so on, and it is self which pervades all of this, right? So it's like, there he say, they are not in me, but I am in them.
Correct. Which is what I should have said it that way, because that is exactly what he said even in our chapter 9, if you remember.
Yeah.
Right? So I replaced it that way. So basically you're talking of the verse which is saying Adavante, etc., right? So Adavante,
Yes.
Madhye, Najano, etc. So that verse basically is exactly. So you're right.
Don't know when I will ever get to that level of grasp on this material that I can just pick up the words like that. My God.
So basically when we say yes, so I pervade into everything. Right? Now, this is basically the analogy that Sri Thakur used to use. Right? He used to ask people, is the fish in the water? Is the water in the fish? Right? And the fish appears to be in water. When you pull it out, the water seems to be in the fish. Right? So when we Thakur's examples are so very lively. They're so real life, real time, right? As you use them, immediately it strikes. The tuck, it's there. You understood it. So thank you for pointing that out. So now we move to verse number 22. Purusha prakritisto hi. Purusha prakritisto hi. Bhungte prakriti jan gunan. Bhungte prakriti jan gunan. Purusha prakritisto hi. Bhungte prakriti jan gunan. Karanam guna sangosya. Karanam guna sangosya. Sadasadyo nijanmasu. Sadasadyo nijanmasu. Karanam guna sangosya. Sadasadyo nijanmasu. Purusha prakritis hohi. Bhungte prakriti jan gunan. Karanam guna sangosya. Sadasadyo nijanmasu. Purusha, individual soul, the Atman, Jiva, Prakritistha. It is seated in material energy, which means it is identified with the material energy, not seated. There is no question of drawing a picture which is saying, oh, here is the Prakriti and then there is Atman sitting on Prakriti. No. Don't get into calendar art. This is all calendar art. You will get some weird pictures in your mind. So Purusha is sitting on Prakriti. It means it is identified with Prakriti. It is identified with the body, mind, intellect. What is Prakriti? Very clearly in chapter 7, he says, isn't it, that the 5 tattvas and then the 3 extras, the antakarana, these together 8 form my Prakriti. He says, my lower manifestation. My lower manifestation. And my higher manifestation is the individual consciousness. And he now correlates, again, I keep saying this, right? Krishna is very consistent. And now he correlates this and says, how is this happening? This is happening. Over there, it was at an individual level. Now he is talking at the cosmic level and my relationship. And now he's saying, how is this happening? Oh, you are seated on energy. What do you mean by seated on energy? I have found one table and I put energy on it, and then I sit on it, and I put some asana on it, and then I sit on it, and then somebody will draw that painting, and then they will say, this is, like we see Devi Lalita sitting on Sadashiva, right? And the throne is held up by 4 Panchapreta Sanasina. We have the name. Right? Nothing of that sort is happening here, right? So don't get into imagination. What he is very clearly saying, individual soul, the jiva, is seated in the material energy. He is identified with the material energy. He, indeed, bhungte, desiring to enjoy. Where is the desire to enjoy coming from? From the vasanas. The desire to enjoy is coming from the vasanas. Traits and mental pathways that we have created over years and years and years of doing aham mama, aham mama, aham mama. So he says then, therefore, produced by material energy, prakriti jan, gunan, 3 modes. Karanam, the cause. Guna sangaha, attachment to 3 gunas. Sangha, see the words very beautifully uses. Asya, of its, sat, asat, yoni. He is born, sat meaning here in superior, asat means here in inferior. We don't take the other meaning that we have. Sat, asat meaning that which exists and that which does not exist. Right? Somebody has done the translation. I don't remember whose translation. In this particular, he says, sat and asat yoni. He is born in the real world, or he may be born in some spiritual world. Asat yoni. No, it doesn't mean all that. Here, so you have to understand each word at a contextual level. So you are born according to your vasanas. Where else has he said this?
It's in the... He actually mentions in chapter 4 also, when he talks about...
Correct. Correct. 4, 6, 7. All these places he has clearly mentioned. He starts off with chapter 2, where he says, you will give up the body.
Yeah.
right? He talks about, he's saying you will give up the body exactly as you shed clothes. Then he talks about how you will go and where you will go. And then he talks about the fact that these goings will be governed by, and then he talks about it in chapter 6, where he says, what you hold, last thought that you hold, that is where you will be born.
Mm.
And that is where I have told you the story of Sri Thakur's story.
Chapter
Actually,
6 or chapter 8?
Chapter 8. So chapter 6, he talks about the journey, where he says that how does the journey stop? He says, where the journey stop, you start off from there. Now, if I was, and what did he say over there? He says, if you were on the journey, then where will you be born? Oh, you will be born either in the house which is materially very beneficial for you to continue the journey, or you will be born in a house of yogis, where you will be put into the path of yoga immediately after you are born. Same thoughts. In chapter 7, he talks about how the association with vasana happens. In chapter 8, he talks about how the journey happens in terms of what we are thinking about in the last minute. And then I think I remember telling you the story of Ajamil the Brahmin, right? I mean, it was the story from the Srimad Bhagavat, modified by the best storyteller in the world, Sri Thakur himself. And then he asked that question, right? No, don't bother him so much. Don't keep chanting Harinam all the time.
Yes.
No need to do all that. Just call him when you are going to die. Everybody started laughing and giggling and so on and so forth. And then he very, very innocently said, but when are you going to die? And what will we think of when we die? We will think of that which we have trained ourselves to think. If I am going to train myself to think of all the sensory enjoyments that I have been thinking of my entire life, then that is what will come when the Bhairavi Tarana happens. You know, when the body shedding happens, there is something called the Bhairavi Tarana. In Garuda Puran, it is described as to that wrenching of the soul away from the body, mind, intellect. Wrenching away. Why wrenching? Because you were identified. The sadhu does not go that way. The sadhu just sits beautifully and just sheds. It's like shedding, right? The leaf, the leaf, when it has become ripened or become yellow, it just sheds, drops. There's no drama about it. We create that drama because we have that attachment. That drama is what he's here talking about. And he's saying that wrenching might happen. That wrenching will happen as long as you are identified. And when you are identified, where will you be born? Sat asat yoni. Whatever you are thinking of your cat when you are dying, you will become a cat. You can't stop that. See, the trajectory is what you decide. Oh, मेरा कपाल है. नहीं, कपाल नहीं है. तुम्हारा कपाल तुम नहीं बनाया है. तुमको याद नहीं है, so you are thinking it is destiny. It is not destiny. You created that. You don't remember what you created, and therefore you are saying, oh, it is destiny. Right? So, this is verse number 22. Verse number 23 for homework. But homework obviously will be after 2.5 or 3 weeks. This is very, very powerful, very important. I will just read out this shloka and give the pronunciation, but I will not explain. This is one of the most powerful understanding of the functioning of the individual soul within the constraints of the body, mind, intellect. So please analyze that from that perspective. Upadrashta anumanta cha, upadrashta anumanta cha, bharta bhokta maheshwaraha, bharta bhokta maheshwaraha, upadrashta anumanta cha, bharta bhokta maheshwaraha, paramatmeti chapyukto, paramatmeti chapyukto, dehesmin purushah paraha, dehesmin purushah paraha, paramatmeti chapyukto, dehesmin purushah paraha, upadrashtanumanta cha, bharta bhokta maheshwaraha, paramatmeti chapyukto, dehesmin purushah paraha, upadrashta, witness, cha, and bhokta, anumanta, permitter, he who gives permission, anumanta, Bharta, supporter, Bhokta, enjoyer, Maheshwara, controller, Paramatma, supreme soul, Cha and Iti, Cha api, and also Uktaha is said. Dehe, within the body, Asmin, this Purusha Paraha, Supreme Lord. This is the meaning. So I've explained the word meanings. Upadrashta, witness, Anumanta, permitter, Bharta, supporter, Bhokta, enjoyer, Maheshwara, controller, Paramatma, supreme soul. Uktaha is told, Deha Asmin, in this body, Purusha Paraha, the supreme soul. That is the verse. Your homework, as usual, what is he talking about? What are these words? How do they link with each other? What is the meaning of these words? How do I interpret them in my journey, and how do I connect with this? That is the homework. I'm closing the session. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Sir, so when do you leave for Kailash?